Hello, everybody. It's time for Pop Speed Digital's Hot Take Tuesday. I'm Lori Joe Vest, and here with me is the vast majority of the Pop Speed team, with the exception of Ron, who is our developer, who is kind of like behind the scenes, introverted, very quiet. He doesn't even show his face at our meetings in the morning, and that's okay. So we want to talk today. We've got a really hot topic, which is the proposed ban on TikTok. As a social media team that is just, I personally am in love with social media. I can't stay off of it if I tried. And TikTok is a new addiction. It's an amazing entertainment channel. There's a lot of entrepreneurs there that are making their living with the work they do, selling their products there. People are just doing all kinds of wonderful things on TikTok. Now, the problem that the government sees is that it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party, that owns ByteDance, that owns TikTok. So we're going to jump into that this morning. I'm going to let Kylie kick us off with our slides. If they will come up. Oh, come on. A little hiccup. Oh, this is funny. No, they're not going to come up.
Look, it's that.
Oh, this is.
Yeah, just
it is definitely that kind of day. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Hot Take Tuesday is up.
Hot Take Tuesday.
Kylie,
here we are.
Tell us what we're going to talk about.
All right. So today we're talking about the TikTok ban bill, as it's been dubbed in the last couple weeks. And pretty simply, we're going to go over what it is in case you haven't heard about it yet, where it stands as of now, where it seems like it might be going, and what it would mean if it passes and TikTok is in fact banned from the United States.
Ouch.
So let's get into it.
Yeah. I know I will be very sad if that happens.
I know. Me too.
That's one thing that's going to happen.
TikTok scrolling.
All right, next. All right, tell us what it's all about, Kylie.
All right, so basically on March 13th, the House of Representatives voted to pass a bill that would ban TikTok in America. This is, however, kind of guided by the stipulation that ByteDance, who is the, I think, sole owner, sold its stake and was no longer the sole owner. The reason that this has kind of come up is that ByteDance is one of these companies that's essentially owned and not indebted to, but essentially like if the Chinese government calls upon them to release the data that they get from their ownership of TikTok, they will do it. So the TikTok ban bill, it's under consideration essentially because American lawmakers think it's a national security concern. If the bill passed, what it would mean is that TikTok would no longer be downloadable in app stores or available on the internet within the United States. So it was passed by the House pretty handedly, actually, by a vote of 352 to 65. And the impact of this bill getting passed would be pretty incredible because in 2022, TikTok was initially banned from federally government issued devices, which,
remember that.
to us, that makes sense. And then in 2023, there were at least 34 states that also banned it from government issued devices, just statewide. And there are actually 50 colleges or universities in America that have banned TikTok from on-campus Wi-Fi and campus-owned devices. So we've kind of seen TikTok being banned kind of creeping up in certain spaces. I think for government-issued phones, we can all agree if it's, not largely held by an American entity with good intentions, we can all agree that that makes a lot of sense. But I think there's a lot of debate on whether or not the TikTok ban bill for all American citizens does make a lot of sense. So just a couple of things to note about TikTok as we go through. It has more than 170 million users in America. So essentially, when you keep in mind all of the people that use TikTok, love TikTok, make a living on TikTok, use it to promote their brand, the question really is, will TikTok sever ties with ByteDance, or will it become inaccessible to the US? And what is the impact of that? So it's a very broad question that it'll be interesting to see how it kind of comes to fruition in the next few months.
Now, I know that there's some controversy, and Molly, I know you have some strong thoughts on this one, that our government officials actually don't seem to realize that every single one of the social media companies has that ability to reach into our phones with their apps and prioritize whatever types of content they want. That's Zuckerberg, that's Elon Musk. Are those two people looking out for the best interests of our youth? Probably not. They're looking out for the best interests of their pocketbooks and their shareholders. And so, Molly, let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you had some opinions on what our government officials just don't know about social media and how they appear to be kind of ignorant about it. And it's really, for those of us in the space, it's upsetting.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually had like a great quote from a representative who was not pro this bill. Kylie, could you remind me of what
Yep, I've got it right here. So it is not a single thing that we heard in today's classified briefing was unique to TikTok. It was things that happen on every single social media platform, and that came from a rep out of California.
Yeah. So with that, and I thought that was a really great thing to bring up, like in terms of like protecting children and everything. I understand that, like, all social media should be a lot more monitored in terms of parental controls and making sure kids are not seeing a lot of things that are on social media that children should not be seeing. Like, there's a lot.
Right.
No kidding. But this is not a lot. Problem. Like, I mean, we see now that Elon Musk owns Twitter, like, the hate speech is out of control. Nazis are back on. Like, it is a cesspool that also children should not be on. And there is little to no regulation. We don't see 300 plus representatives going after Twitter. So it's just really interesting the way that just probably some racism involved because it is owned by a Chinese company. And kind of along those lines, there was a senator during one of the hearings that was going after I'm blanking on the man's name, but the CEO of TikTok, who's a Singaporean man, and his entire line of questioning was trying to attach him to the Chinese Communist Party. And he was like, "Senator, I am from Singapore. That is simply not possible." And it was just really interesting.
Yeah.
The way that
he was harassing him. He was
harassing him.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was bad.
It was very bad.
And I think the government officials that are making these kinds of decisions need to know more about what it is that they're regulating. They really do need to know more about what they're regulating. And when you get these, and I'm older myself, so I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. You get some of these older senators that have no idea what goes on social media, that hear something and then they take that and they get freaked out and they go to their constituency and try to get them to freak out, try to get the fear, going, and it ends up affecting a lot of people that shouldn't be impacted. So,
do you remember,
Sarah, do you have any? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of a while back when Zuckerberg was being questioned about Facebook, when kind of all of that went down, like behind the scenes of Meta, and there were some nefarious things going on there. Yeah. Which is, in 100% when things like that are going on in the back end of social media platforms, it should be dealt with. But I just remember watching the senators and everybody that was questioning Zuckerberg just ask some of the most outlandish questions that if you understand platforms and how this space works, don't make any sense. And in a sense, like if you're trying to understand, it makes sense. But when it's when that side of things is a little bit baseless, that's when it gets interesting. And it's just made very clear that, I think we need to do a little bit better at knowing what we're talking about before we talk about it.
I mean, I think we're definitely past the point of but we grew so fast, we don't know what's going on. That phase is like 7-8 years ago or more.
We've got,
I was going to say 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So 2012.
right. Seriously.
Oh, God. Yeah,
But
it's crazy.
I can dive in a little bit to where the bill stands now, just to kind of
Perfect.
give an update, see where we're at. So it was passed by the House of Representatives. It's waiting for its time on the Senate floor. However, if it were passed by the Senate, President Biden has said that like he's vowed to sign it if it makes its way to him. And there are kind of a lot of moving parts at play with this. I think we love TikTok, and if there really is a national security, breach in place, of course we want our information to be secure. So it's kind of a matter of what's really going on behind the scenes right now. Like we talked about, it seems like there may be some other things that might be more beneficial to focus on, and it doesn't necessarily seem that the way this is going down is, I think, the way that people in our space at least would like to see it go down.
Yeah.
But with where it's going, the White House has indicated that it really wants the Senate to prioritize this bill. But there have been several Senate reps that have come out and said it'll take some time. So I don't know necessarily that we'll have a new update on it very soon and promptly, but we will be staying tuned just like everybody else. So yeah, well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that came out that I thought was really interesting, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but there was a situation, or there was a reporter that showed what TikTok was in China. And TikTok in China is educational. It's totally different than what TikTok is here. Now, our culture is very different than theirs, but it also appears that they are much more interested in protecting their children than they are our children. Well, then let's make it about that. Let's not make it about take the whole thing and get it out. But then again, we also have had, bad actors, Russians and some of the other big governments that want to influence our elections come in through social media, through Meta. Meta had so many people, so many advertisers paying in rubles before the 2016 election. It was shocking. That needs to be dealt with. It's like taking down TikTok is not going to change the bad actors being able to influence our culture. Elon Musk.
They're going to go to different platforms.
Personally, I think Elon Musk is a bad actor. I think he's a bad actor. He supports Nazism. He supports, all kinds of really cruel behavior to other human beings. And so there are a lot of bad actors right now that own social channels. Let's look at controlling them. And controlling it on the channels, not necessarily getting rid of the channels, because love it or hate it, social media is an important part of our culture at this point. Agree, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think?
Yeah. Jumping off of that, Lori, we had I had a conversation with one of our clients on Friday, actually, a nonprofit organization that does amazing work for marginalized communities. And we had a really there's a bunch of us on the call, long conversation about taking them off of Twitter, and because of how vitriolic it is, and because they don't want to have to face that level of hate speech, especially going into an election year. It's just,
and if somebody targets you on Twitter, you can get just blasted. The only time I've been on social media for 17 years or something, and the only time I've ever gotten attacked, and it was to the point where people were going to my website and then coming back to Twitter and criticizing my work, the different things that I put out there. So they were looking me up so they could go back to Twitter and say nasty things to me about myself. And it was when I commented on a Black woman's post about racism. And I mean, it was a cesspool for about a day and a half. So yes, social media can be really ugly, and there are bad actors, but I really think that the joy of TikTok and the positive aspects of it are huge. So why aren't we looking into that? And then you find out, and let me just be blunt about this, that Steve Mnuchin and a bunch of his people are trying to figure out a way to buy TikTok. Now, if they do that, you cannot tell me that they would not try to use the same influential tools that the Chinese Communist Party could use. They could, right? I mean, it's not out of bounds to believe that social media ownership can manipulate their audience. And it's a sad situation, but we have to, I think, educate our populace to not fall for the propaganda, because there is a whole propaganda functionality out there that a lot of people are missing. A lot of people, especially our older people. I know there's, I have a friend whose mother is 102. She's on Facebook. She is on Facebook. When my mother was on the internet, she used to ask me more than once, how can they put it on the internet if it's not true? And I was like, oh, Mom, I could say I was the Pope. I could create a whole website that I was the Pope, and that's not going to make me the Pope.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are vulnerable people that are, don't know how it works, that are being influenced. Let's look at that instead of looking at this one channel that has so many positives. So that's my soapbox.
Yeah, I think too there's such an impact that this could have on small business owners and people that have made livelihoods out of being an influencer, or people that simply just go there for entertainment. So like, I mean, it's become such an entertainment source for so many of us. And you see so many small businesses that really make their living off of TikTok and connecting with influencers and ads. That there's another quote I really wanted to bring up from Vogue Business. And it says that the TikTok ban would disrupt an emerging ecosystem for creators, small businesses, and major brands that have built up followings and strategies, which I think personally is an amazing way to put it, because it really is. It's such a, you see small businesses succeed, I would say largely when you compare it to the other, the big social media platforms, I would say largely on TikTok and Instagram. I don't think you see very many small businesses and influencers in particular finding a ton of success in community on Facebook, especially like modern emerging ones. And I mean, Twitter, for most clients we're bringing in at this point, we don't even consider Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. It's
Twitter.
They're changing so drastically. And with TikTok's boom, really since I think 2020, it's grown at such a rapid pace and created so much, I mean, from entertainment to business to jobs to whatever, that I don't know, it's interesting to see it almost rise and fall in a span of under
4 years.
Really? So it'll be very interesting to see where this goes.
It will. Well, that's what we've got for Hot Take Tuesday for you guys. This was a little hotter than most hot takes, but that's kind of what we're here for, is to talk about things that are on our minds and on the minds of our community. And this is a big one. So I'm sure we'll be revisiting with some updates as we move forward. So thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 10 for another Hot Take Tuesday. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.